Hi, y'all. Hi, friends. Whew, I've been having such a hard time wanting to write anything major or send any notes out. Maybe you all are feeling the same way, some of you, because there's just so much to navigate and integrate. And when you want to be someone who adds something positive and coherent to the fields, when you're still in that mode of just figuring it out for yourself, it can be a little bit tricky to want to share. But I've been wow, I just wanted to touch base because to me it feels like now is very much go time. And when I say go time, I mean it's time to recognize that we're here, we're ready, that what's happening around us right now is something our souls are absolutely prepared for. Um, and we're each, I think, going to have moments where we feel overwhelmed or we feel like we need to take a time out. And there are going to be times where we feel really activated. And I'm actually going to reference something that I don't usually reference. It's so funny. I'm in this new kind of context now where I'm living with friends and my beloved, and we're in the country, and we have my community here is really beautiful and powerful, generous, loving spirits. And there's a little more TV than I'm used to. So this is something I'm adjusting to, and also in some ways benefiting from. They're awesomely connected to pop culture, and I have just like zero connection to that. So it's helping me be a little more in the world, I suppose, in a strange way. But we've been watching Picard, and one of the parts of this new show that I really have been feeling today is this is the new Star Trek, and it's all based on Jean-Luc Picard, and it's a pretty interesting. I mean, Star Trek is always good, right? I'm a geek too, although I'm not a Trekkie. However, there is an important figure in this show who has she's actually she gets activated in a way where something happens and the latent powers that she didn't know she had just come alive, and everything that she needs in that moment to take care of herself and to take care of the people she cares about just wakes up. And this is what I'm proposing is actually happening for many of us right now, is that as we as we come through these moments of wow, like shaking our heads or kind of shaking it off and feeling like, wow, where am I? What's happening? This is big. It's a little surreal. It can be overwhelming, maybe feeling weak sometimes, feeling like you're not up for it. That's part of the cycle for all of us. Most of us, I'll say, we're going to have strong days and not so strong days. At time, I do think that what I feel happening inside of me right now is that activating. Like I'm so present and ready for what it is we're experiencing together right now. And that just happened for me. So I'm going to just say, I bet there are a lot of others of you out there that feel the same way. And if you do, I'm going to just ask maybe just to comment if you're feeling the same thing, that this kind of yes, kind of rising up in you, like whatever we're facing individually, collectively, we're ready for this. That actually, this is what our souls came here for. That we have everything we need. We have phenomenal tools. We have awareness. And it really is time for us to kind of remember Violet saying, yes, I know you're lit up. You have been on fire for a while, Violet. So this is, I want to also speak to something that is the difference between the kind of getting caught into the larger narrative of watching the news day in and day out and kind of having our consciousness hijacked sometimes by what is out there, like in that kind of a narrow way. We have to, of course, be very aware of that and limit our screen time. And at the same time, many of us are learning to use social media, even at another level that's positive, learning to really do our research and educate ourselves and try to sort out fact from fiction. This is an exercise for us. It's a test for us right now. I just want to say that there's a way that fear can be used to manipulate us. And there's another way that, so often our attention is being directed to something to be afraid of. Be afraid of, the other group, if you are, the other political group, or be afraid of somebody from another country, or, all of this fear that gets displaced. And it's usually about something that really is not what we need to focus our attention on. Honestly, ultimately, as a species, if we are going to really acknowledge where our kind of free-floating anxiety and fear actually comes from, it comes from ecocide. It comes from the reality that we are devastating our home planet. That's where our core fear and free-floating anxiety actually comes from, and that's why it's so easy for them to push our buttons. So that core fear is something that we have to be aware that the core is we are needing to reconnect to our bodies, to our hearts, to each other. We have lived in the time of great disconnection and forgetting who we are and how to connect from the heart with each other and how to connect with and love and care for the earth around us. So it's time for us to reconnect now, and I believe we actually are. And so there is such a thing as healthy fear. There is a usefulness for every emotion, and often what fear is about is asking what action do I need to take now? And so, what does it mean for us to take meaningful action? So every one of us is different in this way, in terms of what our right action is. But from my perspective, what the fear is actually, what is beneficial for us to do if we can do it, is to literally consider, and this is not about, this is just, this is practicality, this is common sense. It's to consider that we do want to have sufficient resources should there be a shutdown, should there be a lockdown, for example, which is not unlikely that what's happened in Italy could happen here. And I say that also understanding there are so many ways that we are going to be resourceful enough to figure things out, even if we're not fully, if we don't think we can get everything together, and at the same time, not to be hoarding, but to become aware of, do we have enough water for, say, a month? Do we have enough rice and beans for a month? Do we know how to eat the dandelions outside in our lawn that can help us to stay healthy? These are the kinds of things that we might want to think about, and really for each of us to ask, are there vulnerable people in our immediate circle, and are there organizations that are supporting, hopefully local, grassroots-based organizations supporting those in our community who are the most vulnerable so that they would be cared for in that event as well. So, again, what I started with, I want to just reaffirm that my belief is that we all chose to incarnate at this time. And even if you don't believe that, understand that even operating as if that's so is something that can really be supportive for us. We can choose to make that our reality. We can choose to approach life from that perspective. And, many of us we've had lives where we've had many different experiences. We have had cycles where some of us, I know some of you have been very active in your community in various ways. Many of us have had lots of different healing tools that we've been given, many different consciousness tools, many different skill sets that just come with us, from birth, that are our skill set. And we've had cycles in our lives where we've been more latent in our full expression of those capabilities. And many of us also have felt very much like we're waiting. We're kind of waiting for something, and that feeling can be maddening. I want to also address that many of us have often felt this kind of, it's like from birth, that there's something big that we're here for. There's something like the other shoe is going to drop. I know when I was a little kid, I wanted to learn all the wild plants and what you can eat and what you can use for healing. And I always thought, well, if the world falls apart, then I'll know how to help people and heal people. A lot of us have those kinds of sensations as children. And again, when I say all of this, I'm not saying that the whole world is falling apart. What I am saying is that we all sense and know in our bones something profound has to change. Something massive needs to change, because so much of our modern culture is not working for people. It's working for a very select few, and even those it serves, we have soul sickness because it doesn't feel okay to our bones to be destroying the earth that my nieces and nephews and our descendants are going to be inhabiting. Whether or not we everyone cares about this. We all care about this. So this is quite rambly, I realize, but my sense is that, again, this is the time now that we've been preparing for. And so it's to be grounding ourselves, to be centering ourselves. And if I think personally, anxiety, fear, those experiences for many of us actually come from most deeply a fear that we don't have a role to play, or we don't know what our role is, or we're not sure what it is. People want to help. We're wired to help each other. We're wired to be supportive. And those individuals who are in a situation like this cause harm, that's most likely because of the deep harm that's been done to them. But most of all want to feel that we have a part to play when big events like this happen. So I would just encourage you to just trust and to just do everything that you can to acknowledge what you're already doing, to be an anchor for the people in your life, and also to know that there's something deep in you that has been wanting to be expressed, that's been wanting to really emerge, that your soul came here for, to contribute. And personally, I believe in us. I believe that whatever it is that's unfolding from, perhaps we will in 3 weeks feel like, wow, that blew over. If that's the case, and some part of me hopes that's true, we're still left with this sensation of something needs to change, deeply, deeply needs to change. And so let's just honor what's waking up inside of us right now. It might feel uncomfortable, but my sensation is that it is actually about us activating something deep inside of us that supports us in knowing moment to moment precisely what it is that we have to give. So I'm just going to give a little example of this really quickly from my personal life, which is that in this new context where I'm living now, I've been feeling with everything happening, I have a role in this world right now as an astrologer, and I have many other lives that I've lived, and those parts of me sometimes have quite a lot of judgment around the path that I've chosen at this point. And maybe some of you can relate with me on the level that many of us have had many lifetimes, and we might find ourselves in this moment being like, wow, like, how did I get here? What is this about? And I honor my craft. I honor my life as an astrologer, and yet I'm one of these people who's here to be a bridge between that world, which is, many people are waking up to astrology as a profound wisdom teaching and a wisdom tool. But in any case, so there have been so many parts of me that have been asking, are you in the right place? Are you doing the right thing? And here in this new context, I've just, in this household with my friends and my love, I've been asking, we're on this little farm, what practical use am I? I grew up on a farm, but do I want to do permaculture design? Do I want to do those practical, rooty things? Do I want to help with the garden? And yes, I want to do that. And yet also, I know that part of my gift and what I'm here to give is something as well that is a little less tangible than that. So I've been feeling pretty judgmental about myself. And sometimes, that's ego, I realize. But I may not be the only one for whom my main anxiety or the dark places I go to come up when I feel like I don't have a clear role to play. And I suspect I'm not alone in that. So what happened today was, yesterday, I got really sick of my own bullshit. And I finally started activating some of the tools I'd forgotten about. I did Kundalini yoga, and I sang, I drummed, some of the tools that I sometimes, when I get really clammed up, I just stop creating. So I did some of those things because I was going through some massive feelings of just being off. And then this morning I woke up and it started to feel a little bit better. And then today I went into town and I saw beautiful people, and I just felt my heart start breaking open. As I was driving into town, it was just this feeling of, this is what these experiences are for breaking our hearts open. And when I went to the grocery store, I kept seeing people averting their eyes. I kept seeing people not looking at each other. And again, it broke my heart. And I just started crying. And I just said to someone, I'm like, this is when we need to be able to hug each other. And this is so hard. And I just thought about the elders who need touch, and so that was that moment, those waves of just like heartbreak. And what I recognized in that moment, and this is speaking to the astrology of the moment, is that we have Jupiter that's been activating this Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn, which is, this is a cycle that started in 2008, and now it's really heating up. And when Jupiter hit that mix, Jupiter has expanded and is showing us what is toxic in our culture. And what we're seeing now as we consider the kind of isolation that we're potentially having to experience because of social distancing is we're seeing a magnification of what we've already been doing to ourselves, which is that we're isolating ourselves far too often. We're not touching each other. We're not hugging people. We're not visiting our elders. We're not spending enough time with our kids. And so this is really like showing us, it's putting it in our faces. Okay, you want to be able to stay inside and watch TV all day? Do that. You want to just like, so it's sometimes you have to see things bigger. It's an alchemical kind of process called abetting something. When you abet something, you make it bigger. And so that you can see it and so you can alchemize it. So in my story, which I've been so rambly, so I realize I'm all over the place, but today something broke open in me and I just wanted to just bring love into that situation. And I ended up, when I came home from that, having this experience where my roommate, who is so awesome and she's so together and she does so much for so many people and she's very practical and pragmatic. And she'd had a bite on her arm. And Feeny, I hope it's okay I'm talking about this. She had a bite on her arm, and then I realized in that moment, it's probably just an allergic reaction, but it hasn't been feeling very good. And I said, well, I have black charcoal. I can put that on it with water, and we can put saran wrap, because I've had a massive bite from a poisonous spider that had a huge impact on me. And if there's any chance that's what it is for her, I know what to do about it. And I gave her some tea to help boost her immune system. And, Feeny, who is always the one doing in the physical, tangible way. Thank you, Kelly. She was like, she let me kind of take care of her and mama her a little bit, and that felt really good because I felt like, wow, I've got some tools, I've got some knowledge, I've got some information here that's helpful, that's useful. So something turned on in me, right, in that moment. And that felt really good because I needed to be able to give something tangible and practical, because a lot of times that's not really what I give. So I just tell that story to just share in case if any of you have felt that as well, because I actually think that what can be most difficult and challenging for most human beings I know is, and I will say especially to bring a little astrology into it, I think this is a thing for those of us who are a certain portion of the Generation X generation, where we have Chiron and Aries, where we've got massive identity issues. And it's often the core wound has to do with, well, where do I fit? We're not the baby boomers, we're not the millennials, we're these weird bridge in between people. I'm going to vote for Bernie, I'm supporting him, and yet I've not been out in the streets like a lot of my millennial friends have, because I've gone through periods where I've been far more political, and right now I'm not. And I'm not saying that I shouldn't be. I understand if people who have been out on the streets knocking on doors are upset about that. I get it. But again, there can be this kind of identity thing that we can get caught up in, that especially for those of us in this Generation X group, that's Chiron and Aries, and that's people who are born oh gosh, now I'm forgetting. Maybe somebody who remembers, if you want to post that, because I've got so many brilliant little astrologer friends out there. But in any case, it's right there in the Generation Xer group. It's, I think, 65 to 75, maybe, if you were born in that range, or 77. So in any case, many of us have this thing that shows up where we are wanting to play a strong role, and we want to take care of other people. We want to find our place. We want to help. And finding that place can be the biggest heartbreak if we haven't found that yet. I think when one segment of the population, I think too, that gets left out a lot, there are two. One is the people who haven't had children. And my love was just telling me this today, and I agree with him, that those like men, for example, who have never been married and had kids, those like myself who have never been married and had kids, you know, we're kind of a weird outlier, and we are people who can offer something different and beautiful and powerful, but sometimes we feel a little bit strange, like we don't quite fit. There are a million different ways to not feel like you quite fit. And so this is, again, a place where you can just know we all go through that. We all go through that feeling of, what is my place in this? I want to help. And when I consider this in my heart, I think, you know, we human beings, I believe in our hearts. I believe in us. I think we get confused, but I think what most of us really need is to find our place around the wheel, is to find our role and our place in the community and the place where we can be of help, especially in a time like this. I really think that that's how we're wired. Across lines of race, culture, religion, belief, whatever that is, I just think that much of the depression, much of the darkness that people feel has to do with not knowing how they can engage and really meaningfully help. Because we live in a time where our culture is dying and it's being reborn. And this is, you know, we're needing to do a lot of grief work. We're needing to look it straight in the eye. We're needing to face what we're doing to our earth. We're needing to face what we've done to people of color in our communities. We're needing to face what's happening every day through the context of sex trafficking, what's happening to the people we have here in the U.S. in prisons, the prison industrial complex. There are so many things we're waking up to. And so it's just my larger sense, and I'm going to end here in a second because I want to help make dinner. But my larger sense is that actually a lot of this discomfort is growing pains, because we are here to become multi-dimensional beings. We are here to activate our full potential. And part of what that means is that we are global citizens. If you think about the amount of information and the amount of just the sheer overwhelm that we feel by knowing what's happening to someone across the planet, and we for a relatively short period have had that capacity to keep our hearts open and be in compassion, not go into a place of numbness, to also have many different experiences over the course of our lifetime of trying on this hat and trying on the other hat and exploring many different identities, many different relationships, all of that. I think that's so we can be more, we can understand that we are these massive forces, each one of us. And so to bring the multitude that is each one of us into coherence is the task. And that's what's called for, is to stand in our coherence and to stand in our strength and to have compassion for the fact that what we're doing now is so different than what any of our ancestors were doing. And so if we feel awkward, if we feel off, if we can feel confused sometimes, if we feel overwhelmed, it's natural, because what our minds, what our bodies, what our souls, what our spirits are trying to navigate is massive. And I do believe that we are here to operate as multidimensional beings. I also believe we're here to access the full wisdom in our DNA from the many lifetimes, all the ancestral lineage that lives in us. It's not just about epigenetics. They need to develop a marker that shows the wisdom and the skills and the insight that we also carry in our genes, not just the trauma, but we maybe need to focus on that. We really are standing on the shoulders of our ancestors, and not just our ancestors, our spiritual ancestors, and also the land, any of the beautiful places on this earth that we've spent time, that we've had deep communion with. We carry the strength of that. I believe deeply that every human being has the capacity to channel and to shapeshift and to utilize isn't the best word, align with and train with the wisdom and the insight of any species, any plant, any aspect of the earth, that we have the capacity to access that intelligence and operate from that intelligence. that that's part of what we're here for. And so to step into that multidimensional nature that is ours, that is our birthright, to fully open into and awaken into that is what we're called to. And so I'm just going to complete with that and just say, just give gratitude for every human being in my path who has shown me so much about love, and everyone out there, each one of you who is in your own way waking up to and giving so many of your deep gifts. And I know some of you have been lit up and you've been strong and you've been out there forever and forever. And just bowing to you now as well. But I'm excited for us as a human species. I believe very deeply that we know what we're up to at the soul level, and what we're capable of as a whole is grand miracles of the largest scale. So I'm going to end with that so I can make some dinner. And yay, Amanda, you're there. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I need to email you. And Tony and Violet and everyone else, Kelly, Tony, that it was the conversation you had. Thanks, Kelly. I'm just seeing who else talking. All right. So just so much love to everyone. And I hope you have a beautiful night. And watch the Bernie Biden debate tonight if you can handle it. And just send positive energy that way of all the individuals who have been really working so hard to stay engaged in politics. I'm just gonna put that out there because it takes a lot of great heart. And speaking personally, and it's I know so many good people from every political persuasion, to be completely honest with you. And I will say I have a deep, fond place in my heart for progressives, because so much of what we're seeing today, from my perspective, can be addressed through just caretaking each other. Although I was also an Andrew Yang fan, because I really think universal income is a good idea. Anyway, that's enough the political. And I just very much send so much love